What's up, vapors? Thanks for checking out Daily Vape TV. My name is Nick, and it's Fresh Build Friday. That's right, we got a brand new coil for you guys to try out today, and the day is finally here. I am so happy, so proud to finally announce to you that we're going to be building an alien Clapton coil today. That's right, I am confident enough in myself that I feel like we can get through this thing. Luckily, I've got this dually atomizer here, which we're going to be building on today, and it requires a single coil, so that's what we're going to be doing. My main focus for this video is getting something that will absolutely rip on a single coil device on a mechanical mod. So, come with me on my journey to the alien Clapton coil. Let's go down to the close-up view, grab your mod, grab your wick, grab your addy, your wire, and all that good stuff. Let's go down to the close-up view and build this thing up. Alright guys, we're going to start off the process today by spinning up a standard Clapton. I already have a straightened piece of our 26 gauge here, which we're going to be installing into the chuck and drill momentarily. Meanwhile, I'm just going to get this started with the outer wire. We're using the Jig Rig V2 today just to save a little bit of time. So we're just going to do the standard installation here. And I've gotten pretty good at this, using this jig here. Definitely is going to save you a little bit of time if you do own one of these, or if you're just really good at Claptons, then just go for it. All you want to do is just spin up about, I'd say, 8 to 10 inches of the 26 gauge so that you get just enough of the outer wire. Trying not to waste a ton of wire here. And as you can see, I'm just starting off this, this regular Clapton. And we're going to install it into the chuck of the drill. Just using this jig is just to save me a little bit of time. So we have our drill tightened down. And you have to go the opposite way of what you normally Clapton. So that's what I tend to do. I just find that it works a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and spin up some wire. So now that you have your piece of Clapton wire, I usually take a few wraps off the end that was not attached to the end of the drill, just so I know which end was which. I also take a few wraps off the other end and bend it up again. I actually cut off the original bend that was on there, and I rebent it again, so we're actually going to reinstall that into the chuck of the drill. And this is how I decore it. I mean, obviously there's other ways of doing this, but I find that this definitely helps me out a lot. You're just going to spin up the drill in the same direction that you did before, and just kind of put a little bit of pressure on your Clapton wire here. And just like that, we have the Clapton decored. Now let's go back to the other view real quick, and we're going to stretch out this wire. So a guy by the name of The Phil B on Instagram helped me out a whole bunch. He sent me a bunch of PMs on Instagram, and he was just basically explaining how he does his technique for doing alien wire, and I definitely can see a lot of, noteworthiness to that. So I'm going to teach you a few tips that he was teaching me. So first of all, we are going to stretch out this wire right now, and that's going to create the loops for the outer wire for our alien. So to do that, I usually take about an inch at a time, and I try to make it the waves to fit 3 cores. So whatever wire you're using for inner wire, for example, I'm using 26 gauge today, you got to triple that and just lay it across when you get your wire stretched out a little bit, and that's going to be the determining factor of whether or not it's going to look right in the final form. Of course, do this process very slowly. You don't want to rush this, and you want this to remain very consistent all the way through the strand. So consistency is key. That's why we're doing it in about 1-inch sections here. So we're just going to start by taking this section here and stretching it out. And you just want to stretch it to the point when you feel like it's going to fit those 3 core wires right in there, in between those loops. So right about there, I'd say. So I got about, I'd say, 8 inches or so of wire out of that 1 inch. It's not a perfect formula. I'm definitely going to have to mess around with this a whole lot more to be able to come up with a proper system and everything for this. But so let's just repeat that process. I usually leave a little bit of lead space, just a tiny bit, so that I don't put too much stress on the area where it's going from the stretched wire to the non-stretched wire. So pulling it once again, getting it to the point when you feel like it's going to fit our 3 strands of wire. Right about there. And you're going to have to go back and kind of touch this up anyways, so do your best. Do your best for the first shot, and fix it up when you're done doing that. Right about there. And we're almost done with this strand. So like I said, consistency is absolutely crucial for this process. You really got to make sure you're on point with your loop sizes here, because that way it will prevent any kinks. Now I got a few little screw ups down this end, so I'm probably not even going to end up using this end. So I just want to kind of go through the wire and just look for consistency now. If you notice one loop or something like that just not quite right, then you want to stretch that out. Just kind of run your fingers across it a few times, and you should be able to notice any imperfections in there. There we go, we just got one out there. And you want to make sure it's very consistent all the way through your strand. And we're looking good. So now is the fun part, the core wire and setup on the drill. All right guys, so here you can see we are using some Mad Rabbit 26 gauge stainless steel low resistance wire today for this build. A lot of people will use 28 gauge, but I feel like the 26 is a little bit more rigid, and the stainless steel is a little bit lower resistance. So for this build in particular, that's what I'm using today, but by no means is there any set standard for what you can and cannot do with this coil. Moving on, we have our 3 pieces of wire. I already put little bends in them so that it just speeds up this whole process here. You're just going to put them in the chuck of your drill and straighten them out one by one here. So that's what we're going to do now. So another pro tip for you is using a key ring as a little guide here. This is going to keep all your wires nice and compact. That's going to be another one from the Phil B, at the Phil B on Instagram. Of course, I'll have a link to his profile in the description below if you guys want to check him out. He's got some really beautiful coils on there. Definitely give his page a look. So just organize your wires as best as you can. Take the end that was in the chuck of the drill originally, and I like to just do about 5 or 6 wraps around, you know, just kind of take any mess ups on the wire and just kind of use that to get your coil started here. It's going to be more like 10 or 15, but whatever. Some people don't do this. I like doing this because it keeps my wire nice and snug and secure. I usually try to organize my leads here so that they go in different parts of the chuck of the drill. So make sure you don't overwrap your wire there, so you can just kind of get those nice and organized like that. And then you're going to install them into your drill. Make sure everything stays nice and tight and compact and right in the center as much as you possibly can, because the start of the alien wire is the most crucial. So there we go. We have our key ring attached there. This one's a little bit too bulky for my liking. I would like to have a little bit smaller one. I'm going to have to look for one somewhere, but just got to use what you got, I suppose. So I turned my drill down to the low power setting, and let's just zoom in on this process here. And you want to do this very slow at the start. So usually once I get a few wraps done, I will then move this down a little bit, and I get in real close with my fingers. I'm just going to show you a little bit more on this close-up section, and then I'll switch cameras. there you go. After a little bit of cleanup, there's our alien wire. I've got about 4.5 inches here. I did make a pretty, big sizable mistake, but you just kind of have to press forward a little bit. I had a really good start going with this thing, and then I think I put a little bit too much pressure on the outer wire or something like that, and I got a little bit of a bind, but I clipped it off and I still got enough for a coil here. So let's back off the camera and wrap a coil. So one thing I like to do with the alien wire is just kind of flip it over. Since it is relatively flat, I like to just kind of flip it back and forth and see which side is the cleaner side, and I like to have that facing the outside. And today we are wrapping around a 3mm drill bit size, or bit size I should say, and we're going to do 5 wraps. So that's 1, 2, and I'm putting a lot of tension on this, 3, 4. The mess up that we had is actually on the bottom of this coil. I don't know if you guys can see that on the camera there, but that's actually going to be pretty much hidden, so that's definitely a win. From the top, it definitely looks like a nice clean alien wire coil to me. Sometimes it's just the learning curve. I've been trying these for a very long time, and I've been picking up little tips here and there, and it's just that everyone has their own different style of building these things. So I'm just trying to create my own style, really. That's what I'm basically trying to do here. So I'm dumb and I messed up, and I thought you subtracted half a wrap when you were doing this style coil. However, no, you have to add a half a wrap. So I added an extra half a wrap here. So now that we have our proper 5 wrap, I'm just going to trim off the ends there, and we'll get started with our dually. And I feel like this is going to be a really good build on this thing, because a single coil needs to be a fairly low resistance, and I'd like to also be able to fire it on a mechanical mod. And I know it sounds weird saying, single coil, mechanical mod, but you know what? One can dream. So I'm just installing it pretty much like you would a normal 2-post coil here. Basically, it's kind of like the Origo RDTA that we tried out not too long ago. It's very similar build to that, so really nothing special here. You guys definitely saw this same kind of concept a few weeks ago for my Fresh Build Friday then, but you know what? This is a dripper, so we're going to use a little bit different style here. I'm going to leave a little bit extra room on this side so we can bend up that lead, and I think I have just enough wire here to do this coil. And tighten that one down all the way. Oops, careful there. So then I like to put the jig back through, just kind of raise the lead up and over, and just bend up the negative, or positive I should say, positive lead there. Now the tricky part is getting this lead to go into that section there, but fortunately we have our pliers here, so we're actually just gonna gently, I'm gonna put the bit back through and gently bend up the lead so that it has the proper direction on there. Let's give you guys an aerial bird's eye view of that. So I just gently bent up that lead so that it's going to fit much nicer inside the post there. Now I think I've got that wire trapped, hopefully. So after a bit of wrestling with that coil, I managed to get it in that post there. Definitely should leave your leads a little extra long if you're planning on doing the same build here. But just try to get that coil nice and centered right over that airflow hole. Try to be as gentle as possible, I suppose, but you know what? Whatever gets the job done. We are ready to give this thing some heat. Let's go ahead and make sure our mod is all set up properly. I'm actually going to turn this down to about 50 watts. 45, that's close enough. And let's give it a little bit of heat here. Now, of course, with any very fancy wire build or anything like that, I do recommend you wash your coils before you start to heat them up. It's going to make them fire up a lot nicer and more evenly when you first fire it up, and it's going to give you the best color shot for it. So we're just pinching the coil with our ceramic tweezers now, just giving it a little bit of heat and making sure everything is firing up nice. And we look a little warm on one side of the coil here, so I'm just going to double check all my connections. Everything is good and tight. Now these are definitely going to hot spot, so you got to be very gentle with them and try to avoid, too much maintenance on these things. But once you get it firing up like that, then you're in good shape. So one final little ramp up here, I'll show you that, and then we'll wick it. Voila. It's pretty, don't you think? Alright guys, so our resistance came out to 0.1 on the money. So that's actually going to be really good. I'm actually going to throw this on the Rig V2 for my little judging part of this video. But anyways, let's go ahead and see some vapor production. Right now, let's fire it up at, let's say, 75 watts. Not bad, but I think we can do better. Let's go ahead and zoom out our camera here. Make sure our coil's got plenty of juice. And we'll fire it up at 120. Not bad for a single coil. All right, guys, let's go back to the main screen, have a quick vape on this thing, and we'll talk about it some more. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed the little build section there. Now we're going to go over some of the finer points of this build. As you can see, I popped it on my Rig V2, and that's what we're going to be using for the duration of this video. I really wanted to focus on getting something that works really well on a mechanical mod in a single coil format, which is what this dually is designed to do, and I think we picked a winner here. So let's go over some of the points of this build. My first point being the heat. The heat is definitely manageable. I have it on a mechanical right now, and the heat is, I'd say, moderate. If you pop this on a regulated device such as the Rouleau, you can kind of turn down the wattage a little bit and you're going to get a little bit of a cooler vape out of it, but it's going to increase in the ramp up and ramp down time. As you saw, it metered out to 0.1 ohms, which is definitely attributed to the stainless steel cores in this thing. So moving on to my next point here, the ramp up and ramp down time. Again, dealing with the stainless steel wire, the ramp up time is not very much at all. I'd say it's about a full second before I get a full-on draw out of this. Again, if you pop it on the regulated mod and you're vaping it between 120 and 150 watts, then it's going to be a little bit quicker. However, I really wanted to try it out on the mechanical just to try to find something that works really well for me in this kind of form factor. So let's go ahead and have a listen to this thing for the ramp down time. So the ramp down time on this thing is about 2 to 3 seconds, I would say, before it really calms down. But that is definitely an average, I would say, especially for a single coil rocking it on a mechanical mod or on a 120 to 150 watt setting on a regulated device. I'd say that's about average for any kind of coil nowadays. I would really like to build this in a 3.5 millimeter coil, but I feel like that's just a little bit too big for this atomizer here. So with it being built to a 3 millimeter, I would say that's definitely an average kind of ramp down time. Now my next category is the difficulty of this build. Honestly, this is one of the most difficult challenges I've ever faced. I've built the staggered coil, the staggered fuse Clapton. I've built flat ribbon wire. I've built pretty much everything you can imagine. I mean, just go through the Fresh Build Friday list and you can see all the different types of builds that I've done in the past, but this is definitely the most challenging. So this is for your expert builders, you know, people that have a lot of experience twisting wire, using a drill, using spinners, using everything that encompasses this build here. So, you know what, if you're a beginner, I would say try to get some from a friend or, you know, buy a pre-made coil or something like that. But if you can manage the steps that we did in this video here, I feel like it is a possible task. I mean, if I can do it, you guys can do it. I'm just a normal vapor that likes to tinker around with wire from time to time. So honestly, if I could do it, you guys can definitely do it. You're going to be probably wasting about, you know, 100 feet of wire in the meantime before you absolutely nail it. I mean, I've definitely been through a couple hundred feet myself, but but you know what? I think I've got it down to a science now. I'm pretty confident in myself with building these things. I will definitely be doing a follow-up video for a dual coil setup. So you know what? Leave a comment in the box below of what atomizer you want to see me build on. You know, the Goon, the Velocity, the Roughneck, the Kennedy, whatever you want to see, just drop a comment in the box below, or maybe even the Rafale X. That would be a pretty interesting one there. So anyways, guys, my final category for today is the flavor. I know you've all been waiting for me to talk about the flavor on this build, and I gotta tell you, it is absolutely outstanding. I guess one could say it's out of this world. You see what I did there? Anyways, I'm vaping this Blaz V2. This is definitely a really top-notch clean flavor, and it's really good to try out on the flavor builds such as the Alien Wire here. I'm getting very clean, fresh flavor, very bright. I get all the top notes to this. I have tried different flavors on this particular build before. I've been trying this build for a few weeks, to be honest with you guys, before I decided to record it for a video. But anyways, yeah, so I noticed that on the kind of desserty and breakfasty kind of flavors, you don't get a lot of the lower end notes, such as the custards and the creams. This is a very good build for any fruit flavor vapor out there, such as myself. I absolutely love fruity flavors, and that's what I tend to drip on this thing here. So a couple more clouds, and then we'll sign out. So as you can see, there's absolutely no complaints for the vapor production. This thing absolutely chucks for a single coil on a mechanical device. So if you like this sort of combination, then definitely give this build a shot if you are up to the challenge. A few real quick things. I would like to give a huge shout out to the Phil B on Instagram. Make sure you give him a follow, check out his coils, and thank you so much for all the tips and everyone else that's helped me along the way. My teacher, my Zen master, Mike PO Creations on Instagram, of course, links in the description. He also made this drip tip for the dually, which I think is absolutely gorgeous. You're going to be seeing that in a future video for sure. Just want to thank you, Mike, again for everything. He's taught me everything, all the different types of builds. He's always one step ahead of me, so shout out to you, Mike and Phil. Thank you guys so much for all the help. Anyways, guys, that about does it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more videos just like this. Of course, leave comments in the box below of what you think of this build. Do you want to try it for yourself? Do you think it's possible for you to do? Do you think it's one of the hardest coils that has ever been created? What do you think? I want to know your thoughts down there. Of course, check out the links in the description for advocacy. Make sure you're fighting for your right to vape. And check me out on all my different social medias. I have Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you follow me on there. Like my page on Facebook. Check out my Snapchat. And if you want to give me a couple of bucks on my Patreon, that would be awesome as well. So thanks for joining me, guys. And as always, vape on! Can you guys see that I broke my glasses?